Welcome to the long-awaited episode 73 of the Solosaurus podcast. Happy New Year, and hope your holidays were great with lots of solo board games. I'm Michael Eckenfels.
And I'm Martin Gonzalez. It has been a long time, hasn't it, Michael?
It has.
I hope you had a good holiday.
I did, and it was a long one. I mean, between getting the kids ready back for school and work and everything else, it's just like, yeah, okay. Board games, what's that?
Yeah, I'm sure that, it was pretty crazy, like action-packed holidays for our listeners as well. So I think they get it. I think everybody gets it.
That's good. Yeah. But I think they're ready for our new episode. So that's good. I'm glad that the demand was out there and people are still saying, hey, where are you guys? What's going on? And I was like, oh, yeah. Okay.
Well,
thank you.
Have we got something for you? We actually have a new episode this week.
How about that? Today, we're actually going to be talking about Warp's Edge, a solo sci-fi space combat game designed by Scott Almes and published by Renegade Game Studios in 2020.
And this is a bag building game. This was my first ever experience with a bag builder, and I have a lot to say about it. And it is a true solo for a single player only. Not enough of those out there in the world, and I think we need more true solo games. And it plays at about 30 to 45 minutes, and it is light to medium complexity.
This podcast is brought to you by our buddies over at Stone Valley Games, your friendly, distant game store. Please check them out at stonevalleygames.com. It's a great shop because most of the games over there are great for us solo players. So Martin and I both invite you over to the site to check them out, especially because he's always adding new content to the storefront. It's important to support a small family-run solo-friendly game store as well.
I can't say enough about how well Stone Valley Games packs each game lovingly, and you get a personalized note of thanks from the proprietors of Stone Valley Games. I mean, who else does that? It's amazing.
Especially even to us. I mean, he sends us review copies, and he still puts a note in there, and it's like, wow, that's pretty nice. I like that. So I can't imagine.
It's great.
Making the
Can I also say this? He sends me a different item with the Stone Valley logo every time. I've got refrigerator magnet. I got stickers with nice. I put it on my computer, and last time I got coasters, which I don't know how about you, but we have no coasters in this house. And so now I have two coasters from Stone Valley Games.
Yeah. Up in your street cred there. I don't think I've used coasters since I was 10 when my mom made me do it. So I put that on the table. But yeah, that's good. I don't think I've gotten one of those yet. I do have the magnet, and it is on my refrigerator. So it is very nice.
Thank you, Stone Valley Games.
Now we're going to talk about solo news. And today's solo news is brought to you by TableFor1.me, as usual, where the Solosaurus podcast exclusively gets its one-player game news. Thanks, as always, to Frederick Schultz of TableFor1.me for his ongoing efforts to bring us solo gaming news. And by the way, you can also read his solo gaming news blog on Board Game Geek. We will add that link to the show notes as well, which I believe I've been getting better at including in the show notes. So,
yes, you have. Great job, Michael.
Thank you. Gold star. All right. So the first one we want to talk about is The Initiative. This is coming in this spring, so first quarter 2021 here. The Initiative is a cooperative game of story, strategy, and code breaking for 1 to 4 players revolving around a mysterious game simply known as The Key, and the protagonists who find themselves entangled in a web of lies and mystery. Players will help the teen heroes through a pivotal chapter of their lives by following a series of missions linked together via an interactive comic book. The game's campaign is broken into a number of chapters, each taking about 30 to 60 minutes to complete, and each starting with you reading a page of the comic book. The story advances even if players fail a mission, but winning may provide a reward in the future. And the game is designed by prolific designer Corey. I'm going to destroy this. How do you pronounce his last name?
I think it's Konieczka.
Konieczka. Okay.
Yeah.
The game is designed by prolific designer Corey Konieczka.
I hope Corey, if you're listening to our podcast, please tell us how to pronounce your name.
I'm sorry, Corey. I really am. I'll leave that all in there. That's funny. I mean, my failure is so hilarious. Anyway, yeah. Let me try that again. The game is designed by prolific designer Corey Konieczka. Oh, God. Okay. You know what? Corey, you're a great guy, and this looks like a great game. I am so sorry I can't pronounce your name. Anyway, formerly of Fantasy Flight Games he was, and now he's developing projects for Unexpected Games. Martin, what do you think?
Oh, I have a lot of things to say about this one. So first of all, Corey Konieczka, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, he has over 200 game designs, I think. I may be overinflating this, but he was the lead designer for Fantasy Flight for a long time, and his name is on a lot of my favorite games, like Eldritch Horror, Star Wars Outer Rim, the Arkham Files games. I mean, you name it, this guy has been. And of course, you might say, well, FFG, they kind of like design games as a committee. They're kind of like the Politburo approach to game design. But nevertheless, Corey, so for me to, first of all, it was in this news story that I learned that he's no longer with FFG, and I'm like, what? But he's getting to do, this is apparently a passion project of his, and it's about code breaking, and it involves teen protagonists. So I'm very interested, and also interested in the fact that it is a short campaign, kind of game design and an interactive comic book. I don't know what that means. I mean, when you say interactive, it probably means something on the computer, something on a website, whatever, which I'm fine with personally. But I know that that's a non-starter for a lot of solo gamers. But yeah, so I'm super, super interested in this one, mostly because I'm a big fan of Corey Konieczka's game designs. So that's why I'm excited about the initiative. Oh, right. The next news item is coming this spring as well. Slay the Spire. The insanely popular video game is actually getting a board game adaptation. Now, Slay the Spire is a game that I play on the computer through Steam, and it combines deck building with dungeon crawling. And it's got the video game community abuzz because it's kind of like the poster child for how do you get a good deck building game on a computer? And so now it's like, well, now we want to take this great deck building game that can only exist on a computer, and we're actually going to make a board game out of it. So that's kind of an interesting role reversal there. The board game adaptation is being developed and will be published by Contention Games. Their previous effort was a science fiction themed solo playable strategy card game called Imperium: The Contention. So at present time, all we know is that Slay the Spire will be a 1 to 4 player cooperative deck building adventure. So Michael, have you played Slay the Spire, and what do you think about this one?
I have not played it. I've heard of it. I've seen it on Steam, I think. I think it's on Steam. And yeah, I don't know anything about it. I hate to say it. I've just seen the logo. I've seen the gameplay. I mean, in general, I've seen the video of it. It looks interesting on the computer. It's just not something I've ever bought. So something like this, deck building, I'm still kind of lukewarm on. I'm still trying to get into that kind of a thing. I know your influence is tremendously.
I love deck building. Love it.
I know. And just when I hear the word deck building, I'm just like, okay, whatever. But then I try it, and it actually can be good sometimes. So I recognize that fact, and I'm trying to get better at it.
So here's the thing for me. Here's the thing. Sorry to interrupt you, but so I used to be of the, like, if you go back a year, I used to be of the mindset that, I play board games and I don't play computer games. Never the twain shall meet. And then when I started, pronouncing my love of deck building games, a whole bunch of people were like, have you played Slay the Spire? Have you played Slay the Spire? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then about 6 months ago, I finally said, I'm curious, let me try. Oh my gosh, I couldn't stop playing Slay the Spire on both my computer and my iPad. So yeah, I think I've spent $40 on Slay the Spire, just getting the various versions. But I'm not going to go into it. If you like computer-based deck building games, I think Slay the Spire is the best in class of the genre. And so that fact alone makes me super interested in what they're going to do with the board game adaptation of it. Cool. All right.
Well, I'd love to take a look at it too if it comes out and it comes across our desk. So that'd be great. So our third item, launching in Kickstarter on February 16th, is Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition, a standalone engine building game for 1 to 4 players designed by Sidney Engelstein, Jacob Frizelius, and
Frizelius, I believe.
Frizelius. Okay, sorry, Jacob.
Yes.
Sorry, but hey, I'm over 2 now. Sorry about that. The Kickstarter preview page describes Ares Expedition as a faster gameplay and over 200 beautifully illustrated cards. The latter indicating new and improved card art as a major selling point. So, Martin, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, let me answer that by asking you a question. Have you played Terraforming Mars?
I have indeed. I actually have a copy of it, and it was a game that I bought originally, never played it, sold it, and then regretted it, so I rebought it and played it with somebody, and I just loved it. So I'm just like,
okay, you love it.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, do you love it? Do you have expansions for it?
I do not, and that's kind of an overwhelming point because there's quite a few of them.
There are. Some people consider certain expansions essential. I will say this: I love engine building games. So like It's a Wonderful World, Fantastic Factories, Colony. I mean, you name it. There's a whole bunch of. If it's an engine builder, especially like a tableau builder like Terraforming Mars, I am a sucker for it, which makes it even weirder why I've never played Terraforming Mars, even though I do have a copy sitting, a punched copy. And I actually opened it and took it out and set it up and then just never got through. So there's just something about the learning and I know a lot of people are listening to me and laughing because my brain, this is the way my brain works. Sometimes there's something about a game that will intimidate me and cause me to just freeze me in my tracks, and I can't proceed. And I've downloaded so many different player aids for Terraforming Mars. I've even got the video game version on my iPad, and even that I can't wrap my head around. And this is not a tough game. This is like a medium difficulty, medium complexity game. But so. Long story short, if you tell me there is a Ares Expedition, standalone, faster gameplay, and better card art, because famously one of the big knocks against Terraforming Mars is the card art in the original game just wasn't the best, then I'm all about it. If it could be like, if we could make a parallel to a game called Race for the Galaxy, which I have also never been able to wrap my head around, but it has like a faster and simpler sibling called Jump Drive, which I have played and which I love. If Ares Expedition could be like the Jump Drive equivalent for the big brother Terraforming Mars, it could be my stepping stone to actually finally wrapping my head around it, then I'm all excited and about it.
That sounds good. I mean, anything that'll get you maybe a taste of it, perhaps this little version of it will do that and make you want to actually dive into it. Admittedly, I only dove into this because I had somebody else who wanted to play it. So that was a drive. You know, if it was just me, and dude, you're not alone. I can't tell you how many times I've set up a game and it's like, what am I doing? I don't want to do this right now. I go to all the trouble of pulling it out and punching it and getting it set up, and then okay, I'm done. I'll find something else to play.
We really have to, like, solo gamers have to like be highly self-motivated because there's literally nobody else around to help you get swept up into the thing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. We are our worst enemies when it comes to these things sometimes. And now, here is our review of Warp's Edge. In Warp's Edge, you play a pilot of a fighter ship in the Force's Outer Rim Division. It has a separate choose-your-own-adventure style book included. It gives you a lot of the backstory of the game, so I'm not going to spoil anything by getting into that. It doesn't really pertain to game mechanics at all, so you don't really need to read it to dive in, but it just adds extra flavor to the game. You manage resources in your ship, such as offensive weapons, maneuvering, and energy through a chip pull system from a bag. And Martin, I know you like the bag building part.
It was my first bag building game, like I mentioned, and a bag builder, for anyone who's listening who's not really sure what it is, it's like a deck builder. And as I said earlier, I love deck builders. But instead of using cards to build up and upgrade your deck, you're using tokens in a bag. And in the retail box of Warp's Edge, you get 4 playable ships and 5 enemy motherships. So there's quite a lot of content in this small box for about $30. Now, what's cool and different about the game design is that failure is an expected part of the process of gaming. Your ship warps in to a whole mass of enemies, and you have to fight them, but you're outgunned and outmanned, and you're going to not make it. But the cool thing is there's this mechanism where you warp back in time to the start of the battle, and you take all of the tokens that you earned with you. And then you get to refight the first part of the battle and hopefully get further. And you do this X number of times, warping back and then replaying and hopefully getting further and further. So it's kind of an interesting system. Yeah.
So this game is very interesting in that regard from the chit pull system or the token pull system, however you want to say it. I've played plenty of war games where activation is made by a chit pull system. So you put a bunch of tokens into a cup and you pull them out and it tells you who gets to move. This is kind of a lot more in depth than that because, as you said, you've got different chits that you're pulling, different things that you can do. And it gives you, I think it's 5 that you can pull out and gives you options as to what to do during the game. So it's very robust in that regard. And for the cost, it's pretty good too. I got to admit.
Yeah. I like it.
Component wise, based on some feedback we've received, we do spend quite a bit of time on components.
Yes, we do.
And
we go deep.
Right. Yeah, we do. And, it comes to some certain aspects of the games. Like, for example, when Martin is doing a war game review like we did on our last time, and he's giddy about the components, and I'm perfectly happy to let him talk about it because it's kind of cool to listen to somebody talk about their first war game in that regard, So going into depth on that kind of thing, I think is great. Sometimes maybe we're just reading off the components a little bit, so we'll try to avoid doing that in the future. Just to talk about the ones that really stand out. But in this particular game, I got to say, right out of the box, when you open it up, it's pretty impressive. You got these form-fitted trays, and then you have a ton of different colorful, interesting tokens. The Kickstarter version is interesting. I should mention, I did get a copy of this game from Stone Valley, but I also traded a stack of games for another stack of games, one of which included the Kickstarter version of this. So there are upgraded tokens. I can speak to how awesome those are, but just the base game itself, pretty good. You got cardboard, thick, colorful, easy to manipulate, easy to see what's going on. Martin, what do you think of the components?
So I agree with you. The highlight of the game actually is the token trays, which hold your components in the box, but also during gameplay. And they have labels on them that tell you what are the costs if you want to purchase those tokens during the game. Super helpful for me. I like that level of organization and the fact that, because there's 109 tokens in this game, but the fact that they're all like neatly organized in these rows inside of these token trays, and they're all nicely labeled as to what they are and how much they cost. I mean, I didn't expect to get that level of organization and that level of insert inside of this small box. And I can tell you that I've seen a lot of other more expensive games with a lot less value and thought put into how are these going to be organized for storage and how are they going to be organized for gameplay. It reminds me of a game called Parks. I don't know if you're familiar with that game. It's a game about the national parks, but it has a bunch of tokens in it. And again, it's got these plastic token trays that come out, and they're actually in the shape of trees. So tree trunks. And so it's very thematic to the game. So I like this trend of the helpful and thematic token tray. And that's one of the things that really impressed me from the component standpoint about this game.
The bag is pretty cool too. I mean, it's a nice thick material and it's got a drawstring to it. So it's like a polyhedral dice bag, you would think, but it's got the logo of the game and the name of it sketched on there. Components are great.
Yeah, I could mention another very popular solo game about the same price point, which, you know, we won't mention the name of the game, Arkham Horror, the card game, and it's where you pull chits from a bag, but they didn't include the bag, so you have to provide your own bag. Or in my case, when I first bought the game, I used a cup, so it's supposed to be like a chaos bag because the chips are called chaos tokens. I called mine the chaos cup or mug, you know. But anyway, so I'm like, these games cost the same. One company didn't include the bag, and then Renegade Studio manages to include the bag and the cost of the bag and keep the cost of the game at around $30 MSRP. I mean, you know, it's a great value. Yeah,
it is a good value for what's in the box. And being a wargamer, though, not having a bag is not too big of a deal because I'm so used to having to have my own coffee cup or opaque container, as they will say.
use any opaque container.
Right, yeah. Or these little condiment cups, these like 2-inch in diameter condiment cups I got from the Dollar Tree, which I use to hold my components.
Oh, the condiment cups pro tip is great. I've got a bunch of those as well. Yeah, just for tokens during gameplay. That's great. The last thing I promise I will say about components. So you mentioned, Michael, that there is an available upgrade of the plastic tokens, and they are. I've seen the pictures of them. You've held them in your hands, and they're super nice. Yes. I have the retail version with the cardboard tokens, which are okay, you know. But I wanted to have a, what do they call that? A life upgrade. I wanted to have a quality of life upgrade for my tokens. So I bought these coin capsules, these clear coin capsules. So like if you're a coin collector and you want to protect your coin, you buy these capsules that are just the right size for your coin. So the ones I bought are 26 millimeter coin capsules, and I put all 109 tokens into these coin capsules, and they're plastic. And now, after they just feel great. They feel great in the bag. You're putting it in there, and now you're not feeling cardboard. You're feeling like, nice plastic, whatever. They just move great on the table. They make a nice, satisfying, clicky sound. It's this indefinable thing that really enhances. So if you like this game, if you have this game, you like this game, and you didn't manage to purchase the upgraded tokens, coin capsules, 26 millimeter coin capsules, and we'll put a link to the ones that I got in the show notes as well.
That is a great recommendation because, it's funny. We didn't talk about this in pre-show part discussion, but I did actually look for these containers and I found them and put them in my cart, but I didn't buy them. I think that what you're doing, even for these tokens, that'd be a great idea because just having them in the bag, clicking around like that when you're trying to feel through them instead of just cardboard pieces, it's pretty good. I never thought I was an elitist when it came to board games, sleeving my cards, things like that. I never did that kind of thing, but now more and more often I'm doing things like that. So that link will definitely be in the description below. Now let's go on to the rules. And this is where I think we're going to have a separation of opinion on the game, or maybe we have got some similar points to make here. So for me, I believe they're fairly well written and organized. I did have a lot of issues referring back to it and not finding proper explanations. For example, not all of the counters are explained. So for example, let's look at it this way. So there's 3 different energy tokens. There's 3 green ones. There's a 1, 2, and a 3. I'm not a dummy. I like to think I'm not. I really do. But and I hope somebody out there might have had this issue too with it. But I could not figure out what the other green tokens were. So I look at the rule book and it's got a G on it for a number 1, and it says these are energy tokens, right? And I think, okay, that's an energy token. Well, what the heck are these 2 and 3 ones? What is this? This S, which is the 2, and then an S with spikes, which is the 3. It took me forever to figure it out, and I don't understand. I guess maybe I'm just a little thick in the head, but that was one thing that was just like, oh my gosh, that's so simple. Why did I not see that? But it still frustrated the heck out of me that I couldn't see everything laid out. So that was, that was a major problem for me. I was not clear on a lot of things. I did find some clarity on BGG. The first time I played the game through, I was like, oh, this is awful. I can't do this. I have to step away from it for a minute. And then talking to you, I did find the resources on BGG, and it made me a little more interested in it. So I tried it again, and I'm still kind of finding it flat rule wise. Martin, how about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you, actually. The rules as written, the included rule book, it's written kind of in a weird way. I would say it's not horrible for me. Like after going through it and playing, having the game set up and then just following the rules, I feel that the first time I played, I had the basic gameplay kind of sequence down. But like you mentioned, there's a lot of back and forth. And it could be clear. And the whole back and forth thing, I think, could have been alleviated if they had just chosen to, and a lot of rule books do this, will present to you the full rules, and then at the back of the book or the very last page or the back cover will give you a one-page rules summary, right? Which they didn't do in this rule book. And it's kind of like almost a standard thing that I kind of expect from rule books, because it's super helpful. Because then after like a turn or two or three of playing, then I don't need to go and flip back and forth in the rule book. I'll just look at the summary. And since they didn't provide one in this game, I made my own. So you can actually summarize the rules of this game on a single card. I put my money where my mouth is, and I actually did it for myself. And I do this for a lot of games where I'm not too clear on the rules, because then if you learn it, every detail enough to summarize it for yourself and create your own summary, then I find that you basically taught yourself the game enough to be able to summarize it for other people. That's what I like to do. I know it's a lot of extra work, but I am a kind of teacher by background, so that's kind of like how I do that to myself. But anyway, I made a one card size, one-page rule summary for Warp's Edge, and we will also include a link to that. It's posted on BGG. There's even a low-ink version if you don't want the cool background that I put on there, and I use that, and that really helps me. So yeah, out of the box, the rules are not greatly organized, but there, as you mentioned, there are resources on BGG. One of them is mine because it's a fairly new game, so it hasn't yet acquired the critical mass of. If a game has been around a long time and it's fairly popular, a lot of people are going to make a lot of different aids for them. Warp's Edge, only came out a few months ago, so it doesn't have a lot yet. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's good. I'm kind of the same way, since we're both in instructional design. We both know Photoshop pretty well, and but you're definitely more of the designer than I am in that regard, because you do so much print and play stuff. Me, I look at something and I'm like, I did this for a game called A Wing and a Prayer. I created a player aid card for myself because I thought this works a lot better, and uploaded that to BGG, which one great thing about that community is being able to do things like that and share it with them and give them a new way of experiencing a game. So I wasn't aware that you did that. I might check that out and maybe try the game again in that regard. Maybe that will help me a little bit in understanding the rules. So good job.
Give me some feedback. Give me some feedback on that.
I think that's for all you guys too. I will definitely do that. You guys check it out and see how it plays. We'll put that into the show notes as well.
Woohoo!
So gameplay wise, in Warp's Edge, as mentioned, you're a space pilot, and you're at war with an alien race. And you come across a mothership in your travels, and it has a lot of escorting fighters. So you realize you can help win this war by destroying this mothership. But in your efforts to do that, there's this warp effect, as Martin mentioned, that is in place that causes you to shift back in time to just before you encounter these alien ships, making you start the process all over again. So your objective is to fight your way through the fighters and destroy the mothership before the last warp occurs to win the game. Otherwise, you're going to lose. Martin, what'd you think of the gameplay?
So what I have to say about this is, on my first play, I was lukewarm about it, and I was all primed to hate it. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm going to play this a couple of times. It's not going to grab me. I can already see it's not going to grab me, and then I'm just going to write it off, and then Michael and I will talk about it in the pod. We're both going to not like it, and then blah. And then that's how I felt, literally how I felt, honestly, after my first time I played it. But then you were like, let's record a podcast soon. And I'm like, oh, okay, I got to play it some more, And so I started playing it. I played it a second time. And this time I was a little bit clearer on the rules, and I started playing it more correctly. And then I just 15 minutes went by and I realized I was 100% focused turn by turn on just the task of taking these tokens in my pool and then deciding where to place them. So on each turn, by default, you kind of start out with 5 tokens in your pool. Just like in most any deck building game, you'll start out with a starting hand of 5 cards, your low-level cards. And you've got a row of 4 enemies, and then you've got the mothership up there. And then depending on which mothership you're tangling with, you can either already start attacking the mothership, or like the like beginner level or novice level mothership, you can't attack it until you first get rid of all of its minions, all of its, like fighter escort, if you will. And so you have these so many different ways, and the order in which you play your tokens and where you place them can have a vast impact on. I'll give you just one example of a decision. So every time you place a token, and then if you manage to, so you can, there's 2 ways to defeat each fighter. You can fire lasers at it, so you can destroy it, and then you get a destruction bonus. Or you could outmaneuver it. You could basically evade it, and then you get an evasion bonus. Either way, you're going to get some kind of reward for either destroying or evading that card. Now, so these are the things that factor into your decision here. When you're looking at the tokens you have in your pool, you're like, okay, am I going to try to destroy this one and get that bonus? But wait, if I evade it, it's going to give me 3 extra tokens. And now I'm going to have these extra tokens to do more on this turn. And again, it's those, you start to think about, like, how can I chain combos together in my mind? So you have to run through this decision tree in your mind on each turn, multiple decision trees and multiple levels, because the first decision you make might be wrong or whatever, or might not get you more turns, and you're constantly weighing. So anyway, like I said, 15 minutes into it, I'm realizing, holy crap, I am, pardon my French, I am 100% focused and engaged by this kind of just figuring all this token stuff out, and I didn't realize the time was passing, which, if you look back on it, that's kind of like that's the experience you want to get out of a board game. You want to lose yourself, and you don't want to be conscious of the time passing. You don't want to feel like, oh, I'm getting a little bored. Let me just check Facebook super quick or whatever. And that's what this game did for me, without me even realizing it. Almost kind of using subterfuge. It wormed its way into my brain. And I lost horrendously. But so I've now at this point I've played 3 or 4 different ships. I've played 3 different motherships. I've played almost 10 times, and I'm still super jazzed about it. So yeah, man, I love the tough decisions with each turn. I feel that the decision space is so wide, it gives you a lot of player agency. I think the randomness level is low. And you just have this sense as a player that your success or failure is totally dependent on where you choose to place your tokens and in what order you choose to place your tokens on each turn. So based on that, I am gameplay wise, I am 100%. This game made me a believer.
So it's interesting that you mention the combo chaining kind of a thing, because for me, I've never liked it, and I don't know if that's a normal thing or not, because I just going back to the days of old school video games, console games, what have you, when you're having to press A, B, start, left, right, up, down, drives me nuts. I never liked those kind of games. So I was never into fighting games because they rely on that kind of a thing so much. And I guess for me in general, you kind of hit on the head by mentioning that as one of the things maybe I don't like about the game is having to brain burn through figuring out, okay, this token, if I play this here, then I can apply this 3 times to here, and I can make this 3 times as powerful, but that means I'll miss the, I'm just, I don't know. I guess for me, I don't like doing that kind of thing, but I'm not saying it's a bad thing. People love doing it, and more power to you if somebody out there loves doing that kind of thing. But for me, it's just never worked. but it's interesting that you mentioned that. When you said that, I was like, that's what it is right there. So I'm not a big fan of that kind of procedure in the game.
So the thing that I really liked about it is the thing that you didn't like about it.
Right. Well, there you go. I don't know why it was just this thing, because I think that's one thing too, like about, well, another game, 51st State.
You didn't like 51st State?
I got to give it another try. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think it does sort of the same thing. I mean,
yeah.
What game do you have that doesn't do this kind of thing? Where you're building upon other things, engine building, for example. Yeah. I do like that kind of thing, and I guess I just need to look at it from that perspective, because for me, I was just like, okay, what do I get this? I was just, it becomes too much work for me. I just don't like it anymore.
Yeah. So let me try to see if I can understand your point of view. So you like a more kind of set, because I look at it as emergent behavior, right? So you have these games that are like, you're only going to do this menu of things on your turn. You're going to resolve them, and then you're going to repeat the turn, right? And if I think about like Eldritch Horror would be a primary example of that, right? It's like you're going to do these things. You're going to choose from this menu of actions. You're going to resolve an encounter. You're going to do skill tests, and you're going to pass or fail. And then you're going to suffer the consequences. Like that's it. Whereas, right. And I'm fine with that. Like Eldritch Horror was one of my favorite games, is still. But then there's also like games with emergent behavior, where you start a turn and by default, you're going to be able to do this small limited number of things. And if you stick to that, you're not going to find success. So part of the emergent behavior is the game gives you opportunities to exploit ways to do more on your turn. And that's what games like Warp's Edge and 51st State, Fantastic Factories, It's a Wonderful World, like all of these like engine building games, those are the pieces of those games that I really like. Like I get a sense of satisfaction that, wow, if I hadn't, I figured that out. You know what I mean? Like I used my wits and my cleverness and my ingenuity and my, what do you call it? My lateral thinking skills. And now I was able to eke out 5 actions when really I should only have had 2. And I got these benefits as a result. And I was able to, if I look back on that turn, I'm like, I was able to do so much more than what I started with. And that's the kind of thing that jazzes me up about that. It's like, it gives me this is probably why I like deck builders, because there are some deck builders out there where you can do some crazy combos, like Marvel Legendary or this brand new one that I have that I'm looking at right now, Shards of Infinity, where on your turn, normally you can only play 5 cards, but then, on some turns you just get lucky and all of a sudden you played 18 cards and you did like 27 points of damage. You know what I mean? Aeon's End does that too. Mm-hmm. So those are the kinds of things that I really, I like. It's the kind of style that gives me a great sense of excitement and satisfaction as I'm playing, and I get the same feeling from Warp's Edge. And the fact that I get it from such a small box and such tiny components it's amazing to me. That's why I really like it.
I can see that. I understand where you're coming from, but let me ask this: once you figure that out, though, once you figure out that little puzzle, does that take away from subsequent playthroughs? Once you know, oh, this is what I need to do to blow this thing away, does it become any less exciting or interesting? I guess maybe because of the chit pull it doesn't, but I'm just curious what you have to say there.
No, that's a valid critique, right? And that's down to the game design. If you have an engine building game that's kind of a limited game design where it's only got 1 or 2 or 3 ways for you to exploit and get more actions out of it, and then it becomes rote or repetitive, then you get bored by it. And there's many designs that are like that. They're not necessarily broken; they're just kind of lacking, if you will. But if the design provides you seemingly limitless ways, just different combinations of being able to like wheel and deal and and get more out of a turn than you otherwise thought you would get, then it's exciting for me, because then it's like, well, how many different ways am I going to be able to uncover? You know what I mean?
Okay.
And
okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of like what I like about it.
Maybe I shouldn't give up on it quite yet then. But I mean,
well, I mean,
I guess, yeah.
It's consistent, right? You don't like you don't really like deck builders. So I think it's the way you feel about this game is kind of consistent with how you've reacted to other games of this type.
Fair point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, in a way, this is very much like a deck builder, because we've drawn tokens instead of decks, and those tokens do give you the powers that you need to succeed at the game, or mitigate at best your potential damage that you'll get served that turn.
Yeah.
And I can see that being exciting. Pulling 5, I think it is, each turn that you're limited to, but there's certain functions that can give you more draws.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was another confusing point for me when I was playing it. I think there was one point where I was playing several draws and several tokens, and I'm thinking, I've got to be doing something wrong here, because I'm just blowing everything away.
Well, that's the other thing about this game that we haven't talked about yet, is that you also have to manage, like, sometimes pulling too many tokens in one turn is not good, because if you end the turn and you start and you have to draw 5 new tokens and there aren't enough in the bag to make those 5 new tokens, your current warp ends. And that's not good, because there's also this kind of meta element of like token management. You can't look, the rules specifically state you can't look in the bag and see how many tokens you have left, but you can feel. You can actually dip your hand in there. It's like, I think I've got 6 left. You know what I mean? Yeah. So,
didn't the rules say that specifically? You cannot put your hand in to count them, but you can feel the bag. Something like that.
Is it? I think they told me. What I remember is that you cannot look inside the bag and count tokens, but you can put your hand in there and use sense of touch to kind of estimate how many more tokens are left. Which again is it's greatly enhanced by the, if you've got the plastic tokens or the cardboard inside the coin capsules, because then it's a lot easier to feel as opposed to just like plain cardboard, so.
Very true. Yeah, it's probably a better experience too than just feeling up a bunch of cardboard pieces. You're feeling plastic and the coin tokens too. So I can definitely see the advantage in that.
Yeah,
okay. Very nice tactile response. So
that's that's a good point. That a lot of people respond positively to games that have a good tactile feel, and so if you got the plastic token upgrades or your coins in coin capsules, you get a much better tactile feel in this game.
Let's get into the good, bad, and ugly discussion. So the good for me, as I mentioned before, the components, even the non-Kickstarter version, are really good.
Mm-hmm.
The cardboard circular tokens are nice. The Kickstarter upgraded plastic ones, which you can actually order as well, are great. Martin's suggestion for the coin containers, great. I mean, this all improves your game, I think, but just the components in general are pretty awesome. The trays are great. I love them as storage, and I also love them as organization for the game. So, Martin, what about your goods for this?
I thought that the token trays that I mentioned already, with the labels and the way that they organize your tokens in the box and during gameplay, are just a really great. I think that for me, the gameplay is super absorbing and satisfying. If you like engine building games, if you like deck building games, I think you will like this bag building game. And my last good that I'll mention is, I think this is just a great value for the price and the fact that it's a small box. I can't think of any other game in its price range and size, small footprint, which gives you as much value, much bang for buck.
I want to add to that. You're absolutely correct that this box feels like it's a $50 game.
Yeah.
$60 game.
Yeah. It's like one of those clown cars where the clowns just keep coming out and you're like, where do they come from?
Yep. You're getting a lot of bang for your buck, as Martin said, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now for the bad. So again, the rules, I didn't like them. They're, as Martin said, they're not horrible, but for me, I see one little thing that trips me up, but there are a bunch of little things that tripped me up, as I've discussed. I didn't like having to constantly go back and forth between the rules and not understanding what's going on in the game. flipping back, what's this token? As I said, the energy tokens, as I said, I feel like an idiot for not figuring that out earlier. But when I look at it, it's like, okay, what does this mean? What does this do? What do drove me nuts. I couldn't stand it. So I really think the iconography on the game could have probably used an overhaul, maybe little different things like you can use for the energy token. So the number one token for energy it looks like a G. So which it's kind of odd. I think it should maybe be an E for energy.
Okay.
It should look like an E maybe. And then the number 2 could be a little bit more of an E on steroids, and 3 could be really crazy. Like sort of what they did with the G for the 1 and then an S for the 2 and an S for the 3. It didn't make any sense to me.
Right.
And I'm a very visual person. So this really threw me off big time. So Martin, what about you?
Yeah, no, I'll agree with you on the on both points, actually. The rule book, I thought, could have been better, and I think it missed the opportunity for including a 1-page rules and turn sequence summary, which would have been really helpful. And I agree with you about the iconography, and this is a piece of games where most people don't really think twice about it, and a lot of people are like, well, maybe I don't understand what the icons are, but once I play a couple of times and I get familiar, then I'm okay. But there's actually a good iconography can really enhance a game. Mediocre iconography can really affect a game. And I'll agree with you that this game does not have great iconography, because great iconography is intuitive. Like, even if you didn't know what the definition was, you see it and it already indicates to you what it might be. And then once you read the definition, it clicks in your mind and you're like, oh yeah, no, totally, I get that. And then so the next time you see it, you no longer get the definition clicks with the meaning that the icon is giving you, and then it just becomes smoother. You know what I mean? But if there's a disconnect between, like, you have unintuitive icons that don't really, or A, don't really like tell you what it means, or B, makes you think different, misdirects you about what it might possibly mean, that adds to the cognitive load of understanding the game. So I totally am with you on that. I don't think the iconography in this game is great. I will say that if you get over the hump of wrapping your head around the fairly unintuitive iconography, at least for me, the other good points of the game kind of motivated me to get over that hump, and I was able to play. The last con, I will say, or bad point, and I hate this, where it's like I failed to mention it earlier in the pod, but now I'm going to bring in something completely new that I haven't mentioned yet here in the bad, but I'll talk about it. Unless through the magic of editing, you could somehow just earlier on in this episode, you're just like, and Martin talks about this bad thing anyway. So the bad thing that I'm suddenly going to mention here at the very, very end that I haven't talked about yet is the ship designs of, it's a space combat game. So I know you as science fiction media fans, we have high expectations of ship designs, Star Trek, Star Wars, you name it. I mean, The Expanse, which is a great show on Amazon right now. I was disappointed by the fairly generic designs of both the player fighter ships and the motherships and the enemies in this game. It was kind of like, they're kind of almost not clip art, stock illustration, kind of quality. They didn't really tell a story for me. They didn't really make me feel that it was unique to this universe. It didn't suck me into this milieu, if you will, which was a problem for me in my first play. Again, for me, it's a good thing that the gameplay is so good, so I'm willing to overlook the fairly generic ship designs. So, better rule book, ship designs generic, and could have used better iconography, or my bads.
Regarding the ships, it's interesting to note in the Choose Your Own Adventure book, I'm not going to give any spoilers on that, but there is a little bit of a live-in aspect for this ship. So it gets you into this story, it gets you into the mood for playing, it gets you into the motivations behind who you are and what you're doing. And it says, it's like you're in this space fighter, so you're fighting the enemy in this fighter, and you look at these fighters, and it's like, okay, you're absolutely right, they're very generic, but you can kind of get the feel that, okay, these are single seat type of fighters, that like an X-Wing kind of a thing, where it's just you, it's your controls, and you're going at it against the aliens. But the story went into this spiel about you've got this living area, and you got a sleeping area, and you've even got a little robot butler. And and that's all I'll say about it. But I'm just kind of like, what? What are you flying an RV? I mean, what? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, it is what it is. It's you suspend disbelief. It's a game. I mean, it's a game about space combat. Come on, you got to do that kind of thing sometimes. But for me, it's just kind of threw me off a little bit there.
Yeah.
So for uglies, I feel bad because I really don't like the game, and I think I really should be liking it. And you look at Board Game Geek, the rating is high. There's 5 ratings that are 5 and below. And I think there's tons of ratings above that. So it's like, who am I to say this game, I just don't like it? It's just, multiple playthroughs, it just kind of fell flat for me. There are several things I said there were humps, but as a reviewer, you got to push through them. And, if you're a person who buys the game and you don't like it, you just maybe put it on the shelf and it gathers dust until you get rid of it. But me, you got to try it. You got to play it. There's something I'm missing here. I just didn't like it. And it felt like I should like it because I made this analogy in my head when I got it. It made sense to me. It might not make sense to any of you guys, but when I was a kid, I loved choose your own adventure books. Yeah. I don't know if you did, Martin. I loved them to death. And that kind of went by the wayside when I got into high school. And recently, a few years ago, I bought a 4-book set more for my daughter than me, just to see if she liked it. And she didn't get into that at all. But me, I kind of started reading them again, and I'm like, what am I doing? This isn't fun. It should be. This is this childhood draw, this childhood love that you have for something, nostalgia. When you go back to it again, it's like, this isn't all that fun. I see this game, and I'm like, this should be fun. This looks great. It looks awesome. The components are amazing. And I get it to the table, and I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, no.
That's just me, though. I mean...
No, but I will. I think this is great. I think we're having a great, podcast here. So it's the first time that you and I our opinions on a game have diverged so radically, right? And I think there's value there. I think, and I think, like I said earlier, if you are somebody who is a fan of engine building and deck building games, I think you're going to like this game. But if you're like Michael, who you've kind of been iffy or not so much, or you don't really see the appeal of those types of games, and that's totally fine, then maybe Warp's Edge is not for you. And I think that this is the value. This is exactly what this podcast is supposed to do, is to ultimately, should you plunk down your hard-earned money? And we've really, I think, given our folks, our listeners, very clear paths to take here. Choose your own adventure. You like deck builders? Buy it. You don't like deck builders? Don't buy it.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely correct. You hit the nail on the head there, pretty much. Yeah. Okay. So, Stomp Discussion. I can't do it. I can't. I mean, I it's not because I hate it. It just doesn't work for me. And as Martin said, it's just kind of I can't get that excited about it. I just can't give it a stomp. Martin, how about you?
I think I've already telegraphed this, which I do most of the time. I am over the moon with just how much value and gameplay and entertainment and getting lost in the moment there is in this. It's a $30 small box game. It came out of the blue for me, and it's like, what? How did you do this? Especially because I was already primed to hate it from the first time I played it, and the game actually changed my mind. Like it made me, just the gameplay itself, the core gameplay caused me to eat my words. And so I am definitely a fan of Warp's Edge. I'm giving it my stomp of approval, which we talked about this in the pre-show before we went on the air. So therefore, if one of us gives it the stomp and the other one doesn't give it the stomp, did it really get the stomp, or is it like Schrodinger's game, Schrodinger's stomp? It is both gotten the stomp and not gotten the stomp until one of us actually opens the box and observes it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think what we've landed on is that for a game to actually have gotten the stomp, both of us have to agree. So this is one of those like quantum metaphysical, in-between games where it kind of got the stomp, but also kind of didn't.
I think it's interesting to mention that our expectations going in were different and our expectations coming out were different. So I was really excited and you were kind of like, eh.
Right.
And then I came out of it going, eh. And you came out being really excited.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny.
I mean, it just highlights how I love the diversity there is within the solo gaming community and how, one person's, this is a great game, is the other person's, no, didn't really do it for me. And I think we've just dramatized this in this episode. I'm really happy that we actually diverged and got to talk about, what are our respective reasons. And I totally respect your reasons for why you didn't like the game.
Well, I appreciate that. I respect why you like the game. I see it. I mean, I see why people get excited about it. It just doesn't click there for me. So that wraps up episode 73 of the Solosaurus podcast. I'm not sure where we're at time-wise. I think we're under an hour, actually. That's a really surprise there.
We'll may very well be. This is also history in the making. We actually got in under an hour, folks.
Yeah, only 55 minutes, probably.
Hey, I'll take it.
Don't forget.
A win is a win.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally. So we are part of the Dice Tower Network, of course, and for even more Solosaurus, join our post-show discussions and other shenanigans on Facebook at facebook.com/Solosaurus. And we've been remiss about Instagram, but I'd say follow us on Instagram. And I know we've got more followers on Instagram because we get the emails in the show account on that. Hey, you got a new follower. Hey, you got a new follower. Well, we got to do something about that. So, but please do follow us on Instagram at Solosaurus Podcast. We'll figure something out there. Please bear with us. And, or shoot us an email at solosauruspodcast@gmail.com.
Well, you're checking that email, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
Not as often as I would like to, I am. So I do try to respond to people that ask questions. What's that?
I'm so bad at this. I feel like I just show up to the episodes of the recordings, and then and Michael does all the stuff behind the scenes, and I'm like, man, just let me know. Let me know if you need me to do more things behind the scenes, and I'll totally jump in.
As I said, as we said, the last couple of months have been real time drainer for us, and me, it's like, sometimes I'm sitting there. Oh, I forgot to check the email. I need to do that really quick. I wonder what we've got in here. So then I click on it, and we talked briefly about some of the emails we received, and it's good to keep getting that engagement. So we really do appreciate that, and we're going to be looking at more ways of doing that here in the near future as well. So any suggestions you guys have, as usual, any kind of games that you want us to play, let us know. Shoot us an email. Let us know on Facebook as well. And Martin, how about that micro badge?
I have been giving away Solosaurus micro badges on Board Game Geek. So if you want your own Solosaurus micro badge, all you got to do is hit me up on Board Game Geek. My handle is Dr. Henry Armitage. That's Dr. Henry Armitage, all one word. Send me a geek mail, and I will spot you the Geek Gold to be able to for you to get your very own Solosaurus micro badge. And you'll also find the Solosaurus podcast linked on Board Game Geek as well under the gaming related forum, podcasts and blogs, Solosaurus, or honestly, the faster way to find it, if you just want to sidestep Board Game Geek's arcane navigation system, is just go to your favorite search engine and type in Solosaurus BGG, and we will pop right up. Speaking of feedback that we get from various listeners in various ways, the Solosaurus Facebook Messenger account, and I think you see this too as well, Michael, right? Because it's funny, it's like we're both logged in as Solosaurus, yeah. So sometimes Michael will respond, but it looks at it was Solosaurus responder. Anyway, Ben Waxman over on Facebook Messenger, he told us that, hey, Cthulhu Death May Die. He's suggesting it as something that we should be reviewing in the future. He just sent that today. No, he said yesterday.
Was he the same one who told us about Another Glorious Day in the Core?
Yes, he's the same fella.
Oh, yep. I got to thank him for that because, you guys will see here soon why.
What? What are you saying? You know we don't talk about future games that we're going to review on this podcast.
No, never. It would be another glorious day if that did happen.
Oh, okay. That's a little bit much.
That'll be.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. Maybe I should cut that out. I don't know. I want to be that quite over the top, but is that going to be our next one?
It's not going to be for a while because I understand that it's going to take me. It's going to take me 6 months to attach the tails.
It's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
Plastic, really good plastic
I'm
cement.
super intimidated.
Don't be.
I was like, pain. On Walmart, they have like action figures, and I'm like, I could sidestep this entirely. Just buy some action figures from Aliens, and then
Or if you're lucky enough to have that Protoss Alien versus Predator game, I kick myself. I wish I hadn't sold it before I moved out here. The minis in that game are freaking amazing. So,
and you didn't have to assemble them.
No, you did not. They were all one piece, and they were just fantastic.
All right.
Anyway, thanks again to Stone Valley Games for being our sponsor. We also want to thank Stone Valley Games for the review copies of this game that we received. And as always, as I said, if there's any particular games you'd like us to take a look at, Cthulhu Death May Die, cough, send us an email or drop us a message on social media. Again, I'm Michael Eckenfels.
And I'm Martin Gonzalez.
And thank you for listening, folks.
Bye-bye now.